Hey YouTube! I just pulled up at my sister's house. We are going to be doing another meal prep day today. We're actually going to go to the store first for her and then just to get ingredients to do the meal prep, and then when we get back I will turn the camera back on and we'll show you what we're going to be doing today. While I do all the chicken stuff, which y'all have seen me do a million times, I'm going to film Kate making the dough for the cinnamon rolls. And so what she's putting into this bowl right now is a cup of warm milk, 2.5 teaspoons of instant dry yeast, 2 large eggs, a 1/3 cup of salted butter melted, 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, a teaspoon of salt, and 4 cups of all-purpose flour. You can add up to 4.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and you will see me adding a little bit more later just to get the consistency of the dough right, but what we're looking for is a moist and shaggy dough. It's not going to form a ball like the pizza dough or anything like that. It's still very moist, which is what you want. And we're going to switch from this paddle attachment with a scraper to a dough hook just to kind of finish the dough out and give it a good knead. I did cut out some of the time that the mixer was running. It was just going for several minutes and even sped up, it was long. So I did want to show y'all me adding the extra flour, and you can kind of see how the dough looks. It needs a little bit more time, and I do add a little bit more flour. You can see in this shot the dough does still kind of stick to the bottom and the sides, which the recipe says is fine. I am going to scrape the sides down and make one cohesive ball with a silicone spatula. And then we'll put it into a well-oiled bowl and let it rise for about 30 minutes covered. While the dough rises, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the filling for the cinnamon rolls. So I'm starting with a stick of softened butter, a cup of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. I'm going to mix that together so that the sugar and the butter are well combined, and then I have one more ingredient to add in just a second. And lastly, 1/2 cup of heavy cream. This is really the secret ingredient to these cinnamon rolls. While I finished up the cinnamon rolls and the filling, Kate has been working hard on chopping all of our fruits and vegetables. Don't forget to save those onion skins for chicken stock. Once the veggies were chopped, we were able to finish up the pot roast dump and go. The chicken has baked and it is cooling. We're going to shred that in a little while after it's cool. And now it's time to roll out the cinnamon roll dough, because look how nice and beautiful and risen that looks. I'm just going to start by folding over the edges and trying to make a rough rectangle shape. Make sure your space stays well floured so that there's no sticking. And the recipe says to roll this out to about a 24-inch by 15-inch rectangle, and this is, I didn't get it that large. Mine is much smaller, and maybe it could have been a little thinner, but it was already getting pretty thin. It was about 1/8 of an inch thick or so. So I decided I'll just stop here and get what I get out of it. But we got plenty. We still got 12 cinnamon rolls. Kate said that they were light and fluffy, so I think they were a success. Once the dough is rolled to your liking, it's time to spread the filling, and this part was really fun. I did have a lot of filling because of the size issue of the dough like I was just talking about, but I didn't get any complaints. I heard that the cinnamon rolls were really good. I actually didn't get to try any because this is for my sister's family while she recovers postpartum. This is actually a recipe that I got for my sister. She's made these on occasion before and they are fantastic. The heavy cream in the filling and also at the end just really makes them delicious and soft and gooey. I'm almost done spreading the filling. This is when I started having fun with it. And then it is time to start rolling the rolls. So you're going to take the long end and start rolling it over on itself. And this was a little bit of a challenge for me. I kind of made a bit of a mess because I had so much filling that I was trying to fit into these cinnamon rolls. but as you can see, I made it work. And then we're going to divide this into 12 as even pieces as you can. I was not super successful in this, and those end pieces looked a little bit weird to me when I put them down. Editing this video, and even a few minutes after I had walked away from them, I thought, those aren't as ugly as I thought, but man, I was beating myself up about it when I was making them. And you'll see in just a little bit, these actually look really pretty good. We're not going to ice these today because they are going to be frozen in a little while. So when my sister and her husband are ready to eat these cinnamon rolls, they'll just whip together the icing, bake them, and then top them. But for right now, since we're just getting these prepped, we're going to let them sit at room temperature for another 30 minutes or so to proof and rise just a little bit more. And then we will stick them in the freezer. I have to wonder if she ate the super gooey ones or the first batch first. Kate had to take a few minutes to nurse, so here is her husband cooking our taco meat. We are starting to shred the chicken. The taco meat is done, so now we can add it to our recipes. The first one I'll be making is Mexican cornbread, and I already have a video on this cornbread recipe. I'm just tossing in some taco meat and some cheese, so I will definitely put a link to the cornbread video in the description and also on your screen if you're watching it in your browser. This is a super quick and easy recipe, so if you haven't seen that video and you are looking for new weeknight meal ideas and you often have some leftover meat or beans or something that you can put in the cornbread, I would highly recommend checking that video out. We're going to add just a little more cheese for good measure. And then it's ready for the oven. Speaking of easy recipes, I'm starting the taco soup, which we'll make chicken and beef batches of. This is just 16 ounces of pinto beans, 16 ounces of white beans, 11 ounces of corn, 11 ounces of rotel tomatoes and chilies, a 28-ounce can of diced tomatoes, a 4-ounce can of diced green chilies, 1 1/4 ounce envelope of taco seasoning mix, an ounce of a Hidden Valley ranch dressing mix, and a pound of shredded chicken or beef. We're adding the meat very last. We let the cinnamon rolls go a little long, but these are ready for the freezer. And here's how the cornbread came out. Beautiful. Here we are sauteing some onions for our cheese broccoli soup, and we're melting some stock for the Mexican chicken casserole. We are going to soak our tortillas in the stock before layering all of the rest of the casserole ingredients. Here I am mixing a can of cream of chicken soup with some chopped onion and green bell pepper. Here is cream of mushroom I'm adding to that. And we're going to mix this really well so it's well incorporated, and this is going to be one of our layers of the Mexican casserole. All of our components are ready, so it's time to assemble. I'm going to put a generous amount of chicken in the bottom of each of these dishes. The next layer will be our onion, pepper, and soup mixture. Next, we'll add a can of rotel. I had to take a second to check on those sauteing onions for the soup over there. And the last thing for the casserole is some Mexican shredded cheese. I really didn't show very much footage of how we made the cheese broccoli soup, but I do have an entire video on how to make this recipe, so I will leave a link in the description and on the screen if you're watching it in the browser. This really is my favorite broccoli cheese soup recipe, and that's a food I'm quite partial to, so I highly encourage you to check it out. It's time to assemble our last dish, and that is going to be cinnamon apple baked oatmeal. What we do for all of these meals is that we'll take the recipe and divide it in half, so she only has to thaw out half of the recipe and doesn't have to eat the entire thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a week. This is a recipe from Becky over at Acre Homestead, so I will leave a link to her channel and also her recipe on her website in the description box below. Since you can mix all the ingredients in the dish that you're baking it in, it's super easy, and it really just takes 10 eggs, 2 cups of milk, 2 cups of applesauce, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon salt, 4 cups of oats, 2 cups of chopped apples, and then we'll top it with a mixture of salted butter and brown sugar, a 1/4 cup each. It's topped and ready for the oven. Here are our finished taco soups divided, and we have 2 bowls of beef and 2 bowls of chicken. And here's our chicken teriyaki dump and go, and the last shot of the cheese broccoli soup. Here is the baked oatmeal. Thanks for hanging out with us. See you next time.